Good morning, everybody. How are you? I say everybody, there's only a couple of you watching so far, but that's all right. Hope you're doing all right. You've had a good weekend and you're ready to face a new week, hurtling towards the middle of October. So we've got a nice little acrylic painting today. Oh, so I'm just trying to see who's watching. Good morning, Louise. Because my screen's crashed, but that doesn't matter, that's fine. So I've got it sketched out on my canvas paper. I haven't obviously drawn the top of the mountain because, well, it's in the mist. So I'm going to have to paint slightly differently today, the way I would normally. Well, am I? No, I probably won't paint differently. I'll just do what I normally do. But morning, Sandra. You will have seen that there is no burnt sienna in today's lesson. Oh, I know. I'll go through the colours. White, obviously. Let's squeeze them out. White. Cadmium yellow. Yellow ochre. I could have got away without yellow ochre as well today, but I might as well use it. Cadmium red. And I've probably squeezed far too much paint out, but you never know, do you? Ultramarine. And black. Now, while I've got you, I'm going to talk about black, because this is a lovely black. However, I'm going to tell you about something that I can't sell, just because it's really interesting. I've been aware of a black paint known as Black 3.0 for a short time now, and it's a crowdfunder. This artist called Stuart Semple has set up a crowdfunder so he can create the blackest black that ever was. And I decided to purchase it and just to test how black it is. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to stock it for legal reasons. They have to have, because of the crowdfunding thing, they only are allowed to sell it themselves. It's $14.99 and it comes like this. It's quite lovely packaging, actually, really lovely packaging. Black 3.0. And I compared it to Winsor & Newton's black, the Galleria black and the Sennelier black. Now, if I can do this all artsy, I can show you. I'm going to move those paints out of the way just for a minute. So, those are Galleria Lamp Black, Abstract Acrylic Mars Black. That looks a lot blacker, doesn't it? Let's see how they reflect light. Right, now, this is the Black 3.0. And it's very black. It does reflect no light at all. There's like little crystals, sparkles in it, but not a lot. But look how black that is. It makes the abstract black and the Galleria black look grey in comparison. This absorbs 99.94% of light. Isn't that amazing? So there you go. That was my experiment. And I'm quite glad I did the experiment. It's really interesting to see. Because when I put those out, I thought, you're not going to be able to get blacker than those, because that's really black. And then as that dried, it was like, oh my goodness, it's black. Right. Back to the task at hand. I've no idea how many people are joining in today, because I can't see you. I can see even less of you, because all these constant Facebook updates. Morning, Anne. Hello, Chris. I will be on Discord in a second. However, I may not be able to hear you because yesterday my microphone fell in my water. My earpiece fell in my water jar. So I don't know how good it will be, but we'll try. We'll see how we get on. So let's try Discord now. Don't need the shop CCTV. Good morning, Chris and Anne. I can hear you, so it's No, you're not underwater. No, it's so funny. I just knocked it off where I was dangling it from, and the whole earpiece fell right into the water. And I thought that's torn it. So I hung it up to dry, as you do. Oh dear. Right. So it's a demo today, isn't it? Have you had a good weekend? They all kind of merge in, don't they? Really. Well, I was working. I'd got a calligraphy class on Saturday, and then I'd got a watercolor class yesterday. We did a Louise, yours was beautiful. I've got to say, we did this frosty New Forest scene with a horse and a silver birch framing the scene. It was a nice one. There was only a couple of us doing it, wasn't there, Louise? But yours was absolutely gorgeous. So it was nice to get the frosty feel. So that was yesterday's lesson, and another busy week. So I've got my colours out. I've got black, ultramarine, cadmium red, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, and white. So I'm going to do a bit of the sky, and then a bit of the mountain, and then the clouds that come over this mountain will have to go next. So, right, because I know some of you like to try and keep up with me. Sometimes it does make me want to rush even faster, because I can probably do them in about 20 minutes. But I won't, because that's just really mean. Yeah, it's your kind of scene, isn't it, this, Chris? Yeah, because you'd lift it out in watercolour, wouldn't you? And you'd do a few really nice wet in wet things, but obviously you can't do that with acrylics. So I'm going to paint the base of the sky, which I'm going to do with ultramarine and a bit of black and a bit of white. I'm not going to mix it up thoroughly, so I get bits of everything in here. I've got a little bit of a damp brush. I need to mix a bit more paint up, to be honest, because I'm being a bit too stingy. I made toad in the hole yesterday. That was nice. Except obviously there's only me, so I ended up eating a whole dinner for 6. It was terrible. What a sacrifice. I didn't have it with anything else. I just ate it because the sausages were it was the last day for the sausages, so I thought, oh, I'm gonna have to eat them. And I thought, oh, what can I do with them that's different and comforting on a Sunday and quick? Right, so this is it's quite a blue grey I've got at the minute. Right, so yes, I was yesterday morning, and then I finished at 1 o'clock. Finished at 1. Got back for 1:30. I'm just adding a little bit more white with the flat brush, just to give a hint of cloud. So I'm using the flat brush and twisting. It depends how stormy you want to make it, but I want it to feel dark. I'm maybe going to make the window glow a little bit more when we get to the house. So by using the edge of the brush and twisting, some of you are familiar with this sort of jerky sort of method. Works better with either a filbert or a flat brush. Better than a round brush, to be honest. The round brush doesn't seem to do what it's supposed to do. Right, let me clean that off, because I'm going to need a slightly smaller brush for the other bit, for the mountain. So I'm not going to do much more with that sky for now, because I might have to add to it afterwards. So I'm just contemplating which bit to do. I think I'm going to do it a darkish purple first, because that will help us with the browns. So I'm switching to a smaller flat brush, half inch I reckon. A little bit wet, and then I'm going to go with ultramarine and cadmium red to make purple. Sort of 50-50 mix. And then start to pop this mountain in situ. Now where it gets, I'm going to brush the purple up into the clouds and just tap it with my finger to start the softening process. I need to mix a bit more up. I'm being being very stingy with my paint today. A big dollop. Right. I'm going to try and brush the mountain, even though I've got to really get it into the nooks and crannies. I want to try and follow the contours of the mountain and really push it into the fibre of the canvas. Gosh, it's really taking up the paint today. I don't think I haven't got enough moisture on my brush, I don't think. Let me just dampen it a little bit. That's better. A little bit neater around the house. But I will be fiddling with that a little bit more. Got trees behind here, so it's okay for all of that. I've just gone over my chimney. Never mind. Got trees down here, so that'll cover that. Right, so we want to get sort of brown tones in here as well. So to get the brown tones, I'm going to make a reddy purple. So I've got my red and my blue. And then a bit of yellow ochre. And that will give us, as long as you've got more red than blue, it will give you a colour that's a bit similar to burnt sienna if I just add a little bit of white to it. Because purple and yellow are opposite complementary colour things. So let me add a little bit more white in there. Probably too much white now. looks a nice brown. So when you're after, if you want browns that are not burnt sienna, because I realise I have an obsession with that colour and I do love it. However, I know sometimes you don't want that sort of a brown, and the best way to get browns, I'm just adding a little bit more white to this now. The best way to get any brown is to use its complementary colour. So to use two complementary colours and mix them together. So a complementary opposite is either red and green, yellow and purple, or blue and orange. And by mixing them together, you get really interesting complementary brown shades, which I love. I'm going to go with a bit more yellow ochre as we get towards this area here. And we're doing for time. Oh, doing all right for time actually. I might stick some different shades of purple as well. So I'm not going to clean my brush. Looks a little bit volcanic at the moment. So I'm going to go in with a little bit more red and blue with a dirty brush. So I've sort of got purple and I've sort of got brown. Maybe a little bit of white. So I can just think about dragging it down and following the contours. Well, it's bin day today out in the town. You can hear the bin lorry. I think we need to go even lighter with some of this now, so we can just sort of build it up. Depends how detailed or loose you want to be. Look at the varying shapes formed. What you don't want to do is you don't want to cover all of that grey up, because it's kind of important to get a little bit of depth. You could then, and I might use a bit of black on this in a minute with a rigger or liner brush to add a few crevices and craggy bits and what have you. I haven't finished with the highlights yet. I want to do some neat yellow ochre highlights further down here. So if I go with just yellow ochre and a bit of white. I've not cleaned my brush yet. This little one. Because you can get nice variations in the tones when you don't clean your brush. And a bit more white. So it kind of goes like what would be known as Naples yellow dark or Naples yellow deep. Yellow ochre and white is how companies like Winder and Newton certainly make Naples yellow deep. Naples yellow light is cadmium yellow and white. Titanium white, not zinc. Well, it depends how opaque you want it, I suppose. So I'm lightly dragging. So you can still see the texture of everything that I'm doing. There's no green here. I might put a little bit of green on later, but I just want to see how we can go with what we've got, to be honest. Maybe I will go a little bit green, so a bit of ultramarine, a bit more ultramarine with the yellow ochre. Should go a sort of manky olive khaki green. Throw in a tiny bit of cad yellow. Just breaks up the colour a little bit, the purple. Don't want to do any green down there because that's where the trees are going to be. Right, let's get some black. I am cleaning the brush now just to make it ready for when I want to do the next bit. So if I get my liner brush with a bit of black and a bit of runny paint, I can look at where. Yeah, well, I could have done. I could have done it all in black, but because the camera really doesn't like it, I try to avoid it most of the time. But a dark purple works quite nicely for the darker bits. I'd probably still have to do this with the black anyway to help get more crags and whatnot. Because there's no light source really, because it's kind of above the mountain, I suppose, but it's a dull light, sort of early evening. Starting to get a few of the more of the ridges and the lines, because it's kind of, the foreground's just going to be shoved on loads of fan brush stuff maybe, so we haven't got to worry too much about the foreground. So we want to make the mountain look more mountainous and maybe quite imposing, a bit eerie. I've heard a lot of people when they go here, because to me it just looks beautiful on all the photographs, but they do have a sort of feeling of an impending doom, and it feels quite oppressive when they visit here. I don't know if you ever found that, Chris, or... Okay, because the whole Glencoe, Glenative area is they're all near. They're all sort of like part of each other almost, aren't they? It's hard for where one bit. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh yes, I've noticed the farmers up by me are doing a lot more late night stuff, and I've seen all the seagulls and whatever in the fields, but the tractors are up really, really like pitch black with all their fog, with their main lights on and doing all of that kind of. I don't know. I'm from a market town in the middle of the West Midlands, so although where I grew up is very similar to Banbury in that, although I was brought up on a nice council estate on the edge, you're 2 miles away from a town centre. Within a 10-minute walk from my house was beautiful sandy lanes and countryside and rolling hills and all that kind of thing. So I'm semi-rural, but I am a council house kid at heart, so I don't really know much about anything rural. I like rural, but I don't really understand the whole farming world. Never had to really. That's why, I suppose. Oh, cool. Yes, it looks hard work. You're a farm girl, aren't you, Louise? Right, so I'm going to let that dry for a minute. And I'm just going to bring a little bit more yellow ochre with a bit of purple. Not mix my brush thoroughly. Level with the house here. Stipple it a little bit. This is all going to be trees here, so I just want to cover it a little bit. See, I can always glaze colours over the mountain if I want it to be a little bit more green, which I might do afterwards, but I want to get this misty cloud. So if I go with sort of ultramarine black and white, quite a lot of water, with that half-inch flat again, I'm sort of going to bring this over the mountain, tap it with my finger. So I'm just using a bit of finger tapping with this colour, slightly whiter up here. Again, it's that dance, that twist with the brush. Get it feeling a little bit more eerie. I'm going to lighten down here a little bit as well. Just to get that mountain feel. I may well have to do a bit of green on that, but I can do that green when I've done the tree and the rest of it. So what I'm going to go, although my canvas is white, I am going to paint the house, just because it's a bit easier to do. The back house is going to be a slightly off-white with a little bit of yellow ochre, the little sort of cabiny bit there. And actually I might do the front a slightly off-white, so it's just a tiny weeny pinhead of yellow ochre in that. And the reason for me to do it off-white is so I can put the gable end in a brighter white. Barely noticeable, but will look better for it. I need to paint. I've not painted behind that little barn area, have I? It was yellow ochre and white there, wasn't Because obviously the house has got to be on before you can put the things that are growing up it or in front of it. So the roof will be blue, black and white. More blue though. Sort of makes a Payne's grey. Best off adding the black incrementally. I'm making this quite fluid. And I might just dry brush a bit of white, more of a pale grey over this. Part of me would like to escape here. But I couldn't teach my classes unless there was good 4G or Wi-Fi, which I'm not sure there would be. It does crop up everywhere now, doesn't it? I could never get... I'm with EE, which generally has amazing national coverage, except when I used to visit my father-in-law up in Flintshire, I could never get any signal. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I'm going back a while, so yeah, I bet it's a lot better now. But it was always so frustrating. There was just one area in his house, where I could get Wi-Fi. Need a little bit more white in this grey. Just bring it forward. And then maybe just little white where it's reflecting the sky there. Work on the black areas of the house. So there's a lot with acrylics that you can do. I was chatting to somebody in the shop on Saturday who was saying, oh, I don't like acrylics because they dry so quickly. But I kind of like acrylics because they dry so quickly. If I was doing a picture where I know I would definitely want the length of time to fiddle, then I would use oils, or I'd block it in acrylics first. So it's got a guttering right underneath the roof. I think you can rent this cottage out. Oh gosh, yeah, I would imagine there's because when you look at any photographs of this area, this house is, well, I don't think there are that many houses, but I think because this is more of a tourist spot, because where we're standing is on the edge of a river. So it sort of fills in. Now I've done one window black and I'm going to have that window glowing a little bit. So I'm going to sort of darken around the edge a little. Going with a bit of cad yellow. And a tiny bit of cadmium red just around the edges. Just to get that nice sort of glow from within. So I may do some green glazes over the mountain. I mean, those of you that are feeling quite fancy, you could do it with a bit of palette knife as well, but is that too fancy for a Monday morning? We've got a figure there that I will put in at some point, I suppose. A little bit of shadow colour, which I want to do as purple. What I've done here is I've actually taken a screenshot of a video. And this is a video. It was a time lapse of lots of people going in and going out of the house. And I thought, oh, I really like this view. So I thought I'd cheat. Bit of purple there. I don't want to faff too much, but as you know, there has to be a little bit of faffing with art. He's all in silhouette with a red coat on, but I don't. Can I get my black paint thin enough to make it look like a human? I wanted it in because I wanted some life in the picture, because it can be quite desolate. So I thought I definitely want a human. Let's let him dry. In a word, yes, Louise. I'm actually the next demo I'm doing, the free demo, Saturday, November the 7th, is using oils with an acrylic underpainting. So yes is the answer, and you can see how to do that in a couple of weeks. Because oils take so long to dry, don't they? And if you're impatient, I'm just putting a bit of a purple glaze over that house there, the back barn. And if you're an impatient person, or like me here, I mean, at the moment, I'm kind of all right because there are no classes in this room. So it means that I can spread out a bit because we've got all of our boxes and everything on here. And you know, there's a few things that we can do in this room, but the hardest thing is having somewhere for oils to dry. So by doing an acrylic background first makes a big difference to how quickly it dries. Right, I'm gonna do sort of runny black fir trees to start with on the right hand side. I've got about 10-15 minutes left, haven't I? Blimey. Because I think this is going to be too small for a sort of fan brush feel. So let me do this nice big tree. So I'm doing it in black and wobbly upwards this time. Normally I'd wobble downwards, but I can see these trees wobble upwards. I should know what type of evergreen that is then if it's going up, because some go down, don't they? Proper Christmas tree this, because you kind of want your branches to go up, don't you, to allow for when you stick your baubles on so they droop a little bit. Vary the height of the trees. So we're slowly building up the... Actually, that one I could make a little bit taller. I kind of enjoy doing the purple and the ochre. I am going to use a bit of black and just fill this foreground in. Not all of it, just the bottom inch and a half, so that can dry. Okay, getting there, we're getting there. Has my little man dried enough so I can stick his red jacket on? Because it's good to have a bit of red in the picture as well. It looks, if I get it wrong, he'll look like Michael Jackson, and I'll have to paint his white glove with his Michael Jackson leather jacket on. I think I've got his head too big, actually, too wide. I need to shrink his head. Better. Because obviously the head has to be 1/3 of the whole width of the body, and about 8 of them high. Sort of outline that roof a little. Oh, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work on the trees, then I'll do some green glazes and then some wispy smoke coming from the chimney. So they're definitely in and they're definitely chilly. So let me mix up ultramarine and cadmium yellow. I think that's the thing at the moment with even staycations, isn't it? You can't even tell if you can go anywhere else, because I think the north is still on lockdown in many places, isn't it? Oh yeah. Because I think is Wales considering not letting English visitors in at the moment because they can't move, so it's very hard for them to. Yeah, South Wales is in lockdown still, isn't it, or is that lifted now? Oh, Wrexham, yes. bits of right, this is just yellow ochre on the bottom here. No, I think it's sort of widening the divide, isn't it? This seems to be such a divisive time in our history in so many ways. Right, so I've got a bit of yellow ochre on there. I'm going to show you how to do other stuff, because I've got green there, but I want a different shade of brown in the background, so I'm going to add a bit of red to my green, and that'll give me a warm brown, more of a burnt sienna brown, and I can sort of like use that to give me a few little bits. And I'm going to have to stop in a minute, aren't I? We're nearly done though. So I thought it'd be a nice exercise today just to look at how to make different browns. So we've made a brown out of a purple and a yellow, well, a yellow ochre, and we've made a brown now out of a green and a red. So as long as you mix a primary colour and then add a secondary colour to it, you're all right. So mix your primary colour first. So in this case we've mixed the green, the red. And it really helps dull things down. We are going to make a dark green for a bit lower down. That might be a bit too red. Maybe if I now add a little bit of white to this, I'll have a lighter brown that I can do just to give the... I'm not going to do lots of fences, but I'm just going to do a few little fence posts in front of some of these trees. It always helps to get a little bit of scale. I might as well just use this flat brush while I'm at it, I think, to get the darker green foreground. I mean, if you wanted to make it more imposing and the house more of a glow, you could even put more of a grey wash over this mountain. I might do that in a bit, but let's just make a dark green. I don't want it too sludgy, so it will be ultramarine and a little bit of cad yellow. Maybe a touch of yellow ochre, but not much, because we've got that dark sludge colour underneath. Not too runny. A few clumpy bits. The older the splayed bristle, the better. yellow and a touch of white. Less water. Because the warmer you can have things in the foreground, the better it will give a bit of distance. So while there is that green, if I add a bit more yellow and a little bit of white, makes it slightly more opaque. I can sort of just do a few more rough, flicky things. Just tap the base with a finger. Tap it with my finger, so it just adds a little bit of interest. Maybe I'll just put a tiny bit of light on the top of some of these trees. Just to give it a little bit of a bit more of a glow. Bring it out forward a little bit. Okay, I think, I don't know whether to darken that mountain a little bit. Can you cast your eye on this, Jackie, while you're here? Does that mountain need to be dulled down? Is it too purple? A little bit.
Maybe.
Bit of black? Let me try a little black wash over this mountain just to make it a bit more imposing. So this is just black and water. Settled it in nicely into that background. Just a black wash. It's helped to bring the house forward a little bit more. Now I might actually, because this is more of an evening scene, I think I'm going to just put the same grey wash just on the front of this house. Just help it Or glow a little bit more, I suppose. Yes. So, that's that done, I reckon. So next week, what am I inflicting on you? Ooh, Walkers in the Mist in watercolour. We're getting into the autumn feel, aren't we? So we're going into more misty bits. But I've enjoyed painting that this morning. So I'll just let you know what is coming up this week. Tonight is view across Stapleton, Bristol at sunrise with the Dower House in the distance and a couple of geese flying over. There is no acrylics this week. Wednesday's drawing class is a village water pump, but not the same village water pump as we did during lockdown. Art for the Anxious is pen techniques for buildings and stone on Thursday morning. Thursday afternoon is a whole painting of a vintage couple using lifting out only. Now, we did something similar in Great Broughton in this group years and years and years ago. We painted a whole Payne's grey and then we lifted it all out, so it's going to be a similar thing to that. Then Thursday evening is art history and it is about modernism. Friday morning is the final week of the art history talk on ancient China. Friday afternoon is the formal gardens of Wardington Manor. Saturday is a full watercolour day masterclass where it's an old beech tree at Crickley Hill. And Sunday there is nothing, and then that takes us to next Monday, which is Walkers in the Mist in watercolour. So thank you so much for joining me today. It's been wonderful to have your company. I will of course take a photograph of this and post it in the reference section underneath the photograph of the actual image itself. I've gone a bit more yellow oak. Do you know what I might do just before I clear off? Add some yellow ochre and white to make it a little bit lighter, because that was there as an underpainting, but I never actually did any overpainting over it. Not all over, just in places. So just a little bit of yellow ochre. It's sort of gauzy stuff, isn't it? I suppose. I don't know. I ain't never been. Right, definitely not going to do any more, but that's good. I'm glad it's looking amazing. Sandra, you can come again. To say it started as a bright purple mountain. Yeah, the hard bit is the fiddly bits, isn't it? But it's not overly fiddly, and he doesn't look too much like Michael Jackson with his red leather jacket on, so that's good. So that's me. I'm going to clear off now. So thank you so much for your company today, and I'm sure I will see many of you during the week online in some form. So thank you so much for joining me today. Take care, and I will see you all in the virtual world at some point again this week. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.